Thank you. To Ambassador Danone, I want to tell you, from an American Jew, never again is now. And we have to learn that. I think our great president is bringing that to the world. I know Israel has that as its credo, and we support you 1,000%. I'm humbled to be here after all the fantastic speakers before me. My name is Louis Stahl, and I'm here with my wife, Helene. I come by way of Boston, Israel, New York, and then Florida. I'm a wandering Jew, but I think eventually we'll get home to Israel. We are very proud to be very close personal friends of Morton and Rita Klein, a true power couple in the Jewish world. We are admittedly Trump Jews, and we're Trump Jews for Israel. And thank God our president is a president for Israel as well as the United States. I have the distinct honor of introducing the national president of ZOA tonight, Morton Klein. Our gala is filled with true Zionist supporters of Mort and supporters of Israel who are familiar with Mort's personal story. I will just share a bit of it with you. Mort is a child of Holocaust survivors, as am I. I am first-generation American. Mort was born in a displaced persons camp in Germany and came to this country with his parents when he was only 4 years old. Mort grew up understanding the importance of living a Jewish life and a land for the Jewish people, and so has the world. Without Israel, there is no civilization in this world. We are finding that out. After earning his undergraduate and graduate degrees from Temple University, Mort went to work for the federal government. He was a senior health policy analyst for the Nixon, Ford, and Carter administrations. He went on to work with Linus Pauling, the Nobel Prize-winning scientist, and if you have any type of science degree, you know Linus Pauling. I understand we had Mort's wife, Rita, we have to thank for being the strength with and behind Mort and allowing him to devote his talents and energies to standing for Israel. Mort began by exposing anti-Israel lies that riddled a well-known travel guide. At the publisher's request, he actually rewrote the guide. Mort's activism got the attention of ZOA supporters who encouraged him to run for ZOA national president. Baruch Hashem, as they say, thank God. Mort ran and he won. That was more than 30 years ago. Mort became the face of ZOA and its driving force. He brought ZOA back to life, making it one of the most influential and pro-organizations of the U.S. Just a little postscript. Rabbi Abel Hillel Silver was my mother's cousin. So I guess it's a good legacy that I come to introduce him. He established a ZOA campus department, a government relations department in Washington, D.C., and ZOA Center for Law and Justice. For over 30 years, Mort has been advocating tirelessly for Israel and the Jewish people. He's frequently on television and radio, as we always see. He speaks regularly at venues, big and small, across the U.S., and dedicates a lot of his own personal time to having dinner, as well as Rita does, with his supporters and us personally, which we greatly appreciate. He's provided expert testimony at congregational hearings, plainly and having a significant impact. As just one example, shortly after Mort testified about moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, then President Trump, and now President Trump, announced the embassy would move to Jerusalem. As many of you well know, Mort is just not tireless, he's also fearless. He is resolute about telling the truth about Israel and its enemies. One example of Mort's advocacy was, under Mort's leadership, ZOA opposed the Oslo Accords and later opposed Israel's withdrawal from Gaza in 2005. Virtually the entire American Jewish communal world embraced Oslo and Gaza withdrawal to our detriment. But Mort and the ZOA understand that both these decisions would lead to more terrorism against Jews and Israeli, and tragically, to October 7th. We can never forget that. As the Wall Street Journal said, when history When the history of American Jewish struggle in these years is written, Mort will emerge as an outsized figure. Please join me in welcoming our dearest and most respected friend, Mort Klein, to the podium. Where's Mort? Mort, come on. A fierce and courageous, heroic warrior for Israel.
As a child of Holocaust survivors,
Thank you.
I personally felt the horrors of unbridled anti-Semitism.
We are trying to educate American Jews in the truth of these issues. I think once Jews understand it, they will be strong supporters.
Morton Klein is here, the national president of the Zionist Organization of America.
Joining us on the line is Morton Klein. He's national president of the Zionist Organization of America, one of the only actual Zionist organizations in America.
Joining us now is Morton Klein, national president of ZOA. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. It's great to be in the holy Jewish city of Yerushalayim.
You're one of the most effective and important voices that we have on this subject. It's why I love the ZOA. I love what you do. I love your effectiveness.
Wow. Well, thank you, Louis, for that really extraordinary introduction. I've forgotten about half of that stuff. And by the way, most of it was actually true, I want you to know. I don't know what my team did to me. To put me after Danny Danone, Byron Donalds, Mark Levin, and Alan Dershowitz, and Ziggy, this is an impossible situation for me. My God, this is... But I wonder, I guess that's the reason I'm not getting an award. I'm the only one not getting an award tonight. I won an award. Give me something. What an extraordinary evening. I want to thank all of you for being such Israel-loving, Zionist-loving audience. I want to thank our unbelievable array of mega stars, all of the generous people who have made this evening possible. Our duty, according to our holy Torah, is to fight for truth, for justice, and for righteousness. Whether we succeed, our sages teach us, is up to God Almighty, up to Hashem. Our duty and our role is to fight as hard as we can and hope that God will bless us. But if the people, like all of you in this room, and our honorees, and our supporters, and ZOA, if we continue to fight relentlessly and passionately, I am sure that Hashem will help us and ensure that we succeed in our holy work. May God bless all of you. Since we had so many wonderful talks about Eretz Yisrael, I thought I would really talk about this important issue, not the most important, not the only issue, and that's the issue of the World Zionist Congress, because we need more ZOA delegates to make sure that billions of dollars go in the right places, make sure that the right policies are promoted in Israel, make sure that there's no Palestinian state. So I hope all of you, if not now, then later, will vote to ensure ZOA has a large representation in the World Zionist Congress. The World Zionist Congress is the parliament of the Jewish people. About 1/3 of the delegates are from Israel, about 1/3 from America, about 1/3 from the rest of the world. $1 billion or more money is at stake here. We have 30+ leading organizations that are with us. We want to give you to give us the strength to defend Jews in Israel, Jewish students, fight for Judea and Samaria. For God's sakes, we Jews are allowed to live in Los Angeles, in New York, in Miami. Why can't we live in Judea and Samaria, for God's sakes? After all, we are Judeans. Jew is a contraction of the word Judean. We are Judeans. This is our ancient homeland. This is where we are from. And we have to build up Judea and Samaria, build more communities there, and make life better for Jews to be allowed to live there. If Arabs can live in Judea and Samaria, God knows Jews can as well. We also need the strength to fight for declaring sovereignty over many of these areas, and we need the strength to promote. And we are the only major Jewish organization who has publicly come out and supported Don Trump's Gaza plan to invite the Gaza Arabs to live a better life, a more fruitful life somewhere else. Detroit might be a place they might consider. No, you have enough already. ZOA is the only organization endorsed by World Likud, by the Speaker of the Knesset, Amir Ohana, the first and only gay Speaker of the Knesset. We have publicly been endorsed by the Academy Award-winning actor and ardent Christian Zionist John Voight has endorsed us. Many Congress members, Mike Huckabee, as you've heard, Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has praised us for being the only major Jewish organization to publicly oppose the establishment of a Palestinian terrorist state. And we've been opposing that for 31 years, not just this past week. AIPAC on their website supports a so-called two-state solution. I hate that term, two-state solution. Israel's already a state. It's a Palestinian state solution, which of course is no solution. Stop saying two-state solution. It makes it sound like each side is getting something. We're getting nothing but a Palestinian terrorist state. AJ Committee, Ted Deutsch, look, I speak the truth here. Ted Deutsch, 6 months ago, wrote an op-ed saying we need a Palestinian state now. AJ Committee. ADL supports a Palestinian state. There's no Jewish group at ZOA who publicly opposes it. Give us the strength in the World Zionist Organization to ensure that such a state will never come into existence. And I must say, where is this? I can't find it. There are no innocent Gaza Arabs. We're talking about a state that will have Gaza civilians, Gaza Arabs, Palestinian Arabs. They are not innocent civilians. 90% of them support, right now, their own polls, Hamas, Nazis. 93%, their own polls, supported 10-7. There are no innocent Gaza civilians. Yedid Achronot and Jerusalem Post have called us among the most influential organizations. Support us. Arab American activist, the most important one, Jim Zogby, he wrote, "The muscular and vocal ZOA has risen like a phoenix, has forced newspapers to change maps, has forced politicians to change their votes. The ZOA's efforts must be combated," said Zogby. "If its campaigns go unanswered, it will win." Ladies and gentlemen, with the help of Almighty God and you all, we will win. We simply tell the whole truth of the Arab-Islamic war against Israel in the West. And as I have often said, truth is not a political position. Truth is not right or wrong. And I'll tell you, more and more people are understanding this. A few weeks ago, when I was in Israel with the leaders of the Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations of America, Michael Oren was asked to speak. He's a liberal guy. He went around saying that the problem is it's two peoples are fighting for the same land, each of which they have a right to. That's Michael Oren. In his speech, he asked for questions. I raised my hand. He said, "Mort, before you ask your question, I want to say to this whole group, Mort, you and ZOA were right about everything." Michael Oren said that only a few weeks ago. And he said, "My views are now closer to yours, Mort, than they've ever been." I said, "Michael, as soon as they become identical to ZOA's views, then you'll finally be completely correct about everything." We are relentless, effective, and courageous. Title VI did not cover Jewish people until a number of years ago. When we launched the campaign, ZOA launched a campaign with Susan Tuckman and myself, and I got 40 congressmen to help us to try and reinterpret Title VI to cover Jews, which it did not. I begged other organizations to help me and join me. The ones I just mentioned, I asked them all to join me, let's reinterpret it. Abe Foxman said, Mort, he's the former head of ADL, Mort, you do not fight for Israel by suing people. You use diplomacy, says he to me. Don't be a gunslinger from the East Coast, said Abe Foxman. You use diplomacy. We fought this campaign for 6 long years alone. And after 6 long years, I am proud to say it is largely, almost entirely, because of the Zionist Organization of America, Title VI has been reinterpreted to cover Jewish students. All of the lawsuits you read about would not have been possible if it wasn't for our campaign. And then I am proud to say and happy to say that our own honoree, Alan Dershowitz, helped speak to President Trump to reaffirm that Title VI covers Jewish students and we must use it. Thank you, Professor Dershowitz. And the Jerusalem Embassy Act, to move the embassy. When I decided to write articles that the embassy should be moved, and I went to speak to a bunch of people, John Kyle of Arizona, a great friend of Israel, finally introduced legislation to move the embassy to Jerusalem. 1995. We were the only significant Jewish group that endorsed that legislation at the time, the only one. Other Jewish organizations said, don't do this, Mort. It'll cause terrorism and violence everywhere. It'll destroy any chance for peace. It won't work. Stop it, Mort. You're hurting Israel and the Jewish people. Yes, that's what I was told by one Jewish organization after another. We only got 8 senators out of 100. That's all that would sign it, because everyone was against it. John Kyle went to Robert Dole. Do you remember Robert Dole? Used to be majority leader. He was running for president. Kyle went to him, urged him to get on the bill. Now, Dole was not a great friend of Israel, but Kyle said to him, I was there, he said to him, look, Bob, you're running for president. If you do this, it'll help you get Jewish money. Dole said, yeah? He said, well, I'll do it. He said, if you can get the Jewish senators to get on the bill, then I'll get on it. That's what he said. We had a meeting. No one knows this. Almost no one knows this. We had a meeting with the 10 or 12 Jewish senators. Lautenberg, Levin, Feinstein, Lieberman, Wyden, all of them, asking them to support this bill to move the embassy. Every single one said this will cause violence and terrorism and destroy any chance for Israel having peace with the Arabs. Not one of them would get on the bill. Kyle went back to Dole and said we couldn't get anybody on it. But this is an important moral issue, and it's the right thing. Jerusalem is the capital of the Jewish people in Israel. Jerusalem is never mentioned, he said to Dole, in the Koran. When Jerusalem was controlled by the Arabs, virtually no Arab leader went there. When Jerusalem was controlled by the Arabs, it was a slum with slum housing up against the Western Wall. There was no water, no electricity. There was nothing going on. They don't care about this city, no matter what they say. And Dole said, as a matter of moral righteousness, I will get on the bill. When he got on the bill, suddenly we went from 8 to 35 senators immediately, because he was majority leader. And after that, AIPAC decided to get on the bill. And the Washington Post wrote an article, I have it in my house, which said AIPAC got onto this bill because they were very worried that ZOA may get full credit for this very important bill, so they got on the bill. That was an article in the Washington Post. I'm not making this up. Then, by the way, there was a waiver introduced, a security waiver, that if a president says for security reasons we can't move it, they don't have to move it. We at ZOA fought like hell to stop this security waiver. Nobody helped us, not another organization, because they really didn't want this bill. And do you know who introduced that waiver? Dan Shapiro, chief of staff to Dianne Feinstein, who became ambassador to Israel. He introduced it. That was the waiver. We couldn't get it rescinded. It was part of it. As we all know, for 18 or 20 years, whatever, it was invoked every year to not move the embassy until finally Donald Trump, who told us at our dinner, who was called by one foreign leader after another, don't move the embassy to Jerusalem. He said, I was called day after day by leader after leader. I finally told my secretary, any leader calls me, I don't want to talk to him for the next week or two. I don't want to talk to him. And then after I announced that I'm moving the embassy, I called, this is Donald Trump speaking to us at our dinner, I called every leader who left a message, and I said, hi, this is Donald Trump. What did you want to talk to me about? It's too late, it doesn't matter anymore. So give us the strength to fight against and these lies are not fought against, not by leadership, Jewish and Israeli, I'm afraid. To fight against the lie of occupation. There's no occupation, it's Jewish land. Against the lie that Jerusalem's holy to Muslims. It's not. The lie of genocide. I love this genocide. At Brown University, when I spoke, an Arab got up, happened to be an Arab. There was a whole group of Arabs who came to hear me speak at Brown. And he said, Mr. Klein, this is years ago. You're not speaking about genocide. You're afraid to talk about the genocide Israel's perpetrating. This is years ago, before 10/7, before this whole nightmare. And I said, I'm glad you asked me that question. You know, I said in 1948, there were about 150,000 Palestinian Arabs in this area of Israel. Today, there are over 2 million Palestinian Arabs. Whoever is in charge of Israel's genocide program has to be fired immediately. It's not working. Do you know the next day Hillel had invited me to speak. The next day the Hillel guy called me to tell me there was an article in the paper about my speech, and it said the students said Morton Klein expressed chagrin that the genocide program wasn't working. But because I didn't go to Brown, I didn't know what the hell chagrin meant. So it didn't bother me. I didn't know what they were talking about. So, the insane lie of apartheid, for God's sakes. I mean, there's 10% of the Knesset are Arabs. There was a member of the Supreme Court that's an Arab. You didn't have that in apartheid, in the real apartheid, South Africa. And to promote the truth of incitement. They are promoting from little children on to hate Jews, harm Jews, and kill Jews. This is a nightmare, and we have to make that more and more clear. Give us the strength to fight against something that isn't really talked about that much. Islamic anti-Semitism. Islamic anti-Semitism. Do you know, in the recent polls, 2024, of the Muslim countries, 75 to 95% of the Muslims in Muslim countries are anti-Semitic. 75 to 95%. This is published data. Actually, ADL did this data. And the Muslims in non-Muslim countries, from 43 to 62% of Muslims in non-Muslim countries are anti-Semitic. This is a real problem. This is a dangerous problem. We have to speak about it and make it clear that we are going to be fighting Islamic anti-Semitism. It's not Islamophobic to fight against the truth of Islamic anti-Semitism and try and do something about it. This is something that ZOA is committed to doing. Please give us the strength to make this a more serious battle, and urge other organizations to fight the scourge and growing scourge of Islamic anti-Semitism. And of course, we'll continue our fight on campuses. What Trump did, taking monies away from Columbia, and I think Johns Hopkins as well, is long overdue. Kids on, yes. As Mia just stated in her very important speech, Jews on campus, and we are called by students all the time to help them. They're called baby killers. They're called terrorists. They're called Nazis. They're blocked from going to class. The classes are stopped. Jews are stopped from going into buildings. They come into class beating drums, handing out anti-Semitic pamphlets. Classes are canceled. It's a nightmare. And they keep screaming for the globalization of the Intifada. This is one of the main themes at these rallies. We must globalize the Intifada. In other words, the Intifada is to promote terrorism and murder of Jews. They're promoting on these campuses that Jews around the world should be killed. They're saying this on campus. They're saying this on campus. And we got the president saying it depends on the context. This is outrageous. This is frightening. This is dangerous. And it's happening to Jews. If this was statements being made against blacks or Muslims or gays or women, we wouldn't and we shouldn't ever tolerate that. We would never tolerate it. But when it comes to Jews, we ignore it. We ignore it and say, it's free speech. They have a point. It's free speech. We have to fight this. If these students promoting Hamas is promoting murdering Jews, promoting Nazis, if they call for globalized Intifada, if they're foreign students, we must deport these foreign students. And if they're American citizen students, we must expel, 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 arrest, arrest, arrest. My brother's a professor at Washington University at the med school. He tells me the first day encampments at Washington U in St. Louis were put up, they immediately called the police in and started arresting students. The first day. They've had no problem ever since because they acted immediately. They acted immediately to stop this insanity. And Columbia wrote a week or so a letter to all the Columbia students, faculty, and whatnot. In the letter, they talked about, we're going to take serious action. We must address this. We must do better. We need a reset. We must strengthen disciplinary process. We must swiftly respond. We need new policies. All generalities. They said nothing specific. I want to hear we're going to arrest them, we're going to throw them out, we're going to put them in jail, they're not going to be on this campus. That's what I want to hear, not this general nonsense. A number of years ago, as a delegate to the World Zionist Congress, which I'm urging you again to make sure you vote for number 15 ZOA, I proposed several resolutions. One I proposed, there were several Jewish movements that promote, you don't have to believe in God. People, you can live, everyone can live and believe as they wish. But they were asking for money from the World Zionist Congress to fund these movements that do not promote belief in God. I proposed a resolution that simply said we should only fund Jewish movements that promote a belief in God. Very simple. That's all I said. And there was murmuring all over the place, and people were not happy. And Abe Gaffney, who was the moderator, Judge Gaffney, said, more people are not happy. Do you want to withdraw this? I said, no, I don't want to withdraw this. I'm saying, let's fund any Jewish movement. I'm not saying only Orthodox, any. As long as they promote belief in God, there should be some sort of fundamental minimum. We had the vote. The vote failed. It failed. Chaim Potak, the famous author, came over to me afterwards. He said, Mort, you're the only person I know who could get a World Zionist Congress to vote against God. Let me tell you something more controversial. I'll get to the end with this. I propose another resolution. I'm very worried. I don't mean to offend anyone. However one lives their lives, may they live well and be healthy. I'm very worried that we are losing the number of Jews we have in America due to intermarriage. I hope anyone who marries that the person converts, and if the person wants to intermarry, it's their business and they should live a good and decent life. But I'm worried about the survival of the Jewish people. So I proposed a resolution, and you should know, if you exclude the Orthodox Jews, and people will not talk about this, the rest of the Jews, two studies at Brandeis University, 75 and 80% intermarry. 75 and 80, not 50, 75 and 80 if you exclude the Orthodox Jews. So I proposed a resolution that simply said organizations should do what they can to promote Jews marrying Jews. That's it, to promote Jews marrying Jews. I didn't condemn any other way of life. I just said to promote it because we're losing our people. I'll tell you, there was just a new poll came out last week that said of all the people Jews who grew up as Jews, 1/4 of them do not identify as Jews anymore. 1/4. Last week's poll, Pew. We're losing our people. So I proposed a resolution that, like I said, simply said, Jewish organizations should promote Jews marrying Jews. Very simple. There was an uproar like you wouldn't believe. People yelling and screaming, people saying, don't take that, rescind that. Abe Gaffney again asked me, do I want to rescind this resolution? I said no, but let's take a break. During the break, I'm surrounded by people, names you would know, begging me to rescind a resolution that simply says we should promote Jews marrying Jews. I don't know, is that such a terrible thing to have done? Is that so controversial? And we had a vote. And the vote lost. The vote lost. This is a serious problem because the fact that we're having a reduction in Jews, and we know it because conservative synagogues are closing all around the country. They're merging all around the country with other conservative synagogues. Reform synagogues are now closing and merging. We're losing our people. And there's more and more people who have come to this country who are hostile to Israel. If we keep seeing a diminution of the number of Jews in this country, it will be a reduction in support for Israel in Congress and around the country. So this is, to me, a very serious issue. And I hope you understand, I'm not saying this to cause pain or discomfort to anyone, but it's something I think we have to face because it's an issue that's hurting our people. Well, thank you. But we will have miracles that are going to happen, that are going to save all of us, the Jews, Israel, and the rest of the world. We've seen miracles only recently. When Donald Trump turned his head and was not assassinated, that was a miracle. Had he not turned his head, he would be dead. Iran launched 200 missiles against Israel. Not a single Jew was killed. It's a miracle, 200 missiles. After October 7th, Hezbollah and Iran did not respond and join on October 8th. To me, it's a miracle. Why didn't they respond when Israel was in deep trouble? We've had 35,000 missiles since 2007 from Hamas and from Hezbollah. Very few Jews have been killed by those missiles. There have been some, but very few. It really is a miracle. The pagers, tell me that's not a miracle. It's unbelievable what they do with the pagers. And how about the buses and the trains, where Jew haters put bombs on buses and trains, set the timer for 8:30 a.m. the following morning. By mistake, he set it to 8:30 p.m., so the bombs went off when there was no one there. There would have been a catastrophe had it gone off 8:30 a.m. during rush hour. That was an absolute miracle. We see miracles every day. We should appreciate that, recognize it, that there is a God in this world, and God is working to protect us, but we have to fight for ourselves and help him as well. But these things are happening. We Jews did not come to Israel as colonialists. We came neither like the British imperialists, nor like the French colonizers in Algeria, nor like the English and Dutch settlers in South Africa. We didn't come like immigrants seeking a new continent, a new homeland. We came back home as the inhabitants of a country who have been driven away by force. You, Arabs, compelled us to use force. We didn't drive you out. You ran away at the instigation of your leaders and through your own lack of real roots in Israel, which is not your home. Had the Arab leaders, your own brothers, allowed you to settle in their countries, your true home, the problem of your refugees would have been settled long ago, just as the problem of Jewish refugees has been settled. We did not let our Jewish brethren vegetate in refugee camps. And in every generation, as the Passover Haggadah foresees, enemies will rise up against the Jewish people, but each time we will overcome our enemies and prevail. We have always emerged to rebuild and become stronger than before. In future years will be a time of regeneration, hope, new opportunities, and stronger Jewish communities. The Torah promises that Israel is the Jewish homeland and will always be the Jewish homeland. The Torah promises the Jewish people will be an eternal people. And unlike politicians, God keeps his promises.